Kenny, the voice of SpongeBob SquarePants, and I'm Jason Marsden, Wally Wiggler, playing Allison Packard, and I'm playing another person. These are, if you haven't seen one of those, come see one of our cartoon boys. There's another one on Sunday at 1:15. Okay, shall I tell my story now? Yeah! More questions? Yeah, well, all right. All of you feel like you would be your own attorneys and earn money?
Never. We have very good attorneys. Except Mark, which I don't pay him, so his attorney's lousy.
You may have heard, if you follow the newspaper a couple of weeks ago, there was a major copyright decision, which was the people who owned Lassie, the man who wrote the original story, which Lassie was based, his family sued and reclaimed all rights to it. They got the rights to Lassie back to the company that was public, that had been owning Lassie for many years. You also may have heard that the family of Jerry Siegel won a major lawsuit. They got back half the rights to Superman from DC Comics. The attorney who handled both of those is my attorney. And he's the guy who has the movie rights to Gru.
Do you have a long story to tell?
Yes, I do. It involves this envelope. This envelope, yes. Nothing that you see in it will give you a hint of the story. All right. I have missed 2 Mark and Sergio panels at WonderCon over the last couple of years because one time I was in the hospital, one time I was in LAX trying to have United Airlines actually put me on a plane home. In both of these panels, Sergio was asked, how did you and Mark meet? He gave a story. I would like to give you the true story. And I preface this by telling you that I have the best memory in the world. I have a phenomenal memory, as Sergio and Stan and Randy here will tell you this. And I remember this vividly. Let us go back to 1968.
You were talking about that. We were talking about that.
Did I just tell this? Oh, I'm sorry. One of the tricks that he came up with was that a lot of professionals do drawings for fanzines. And they will do 3 covers, these are fanzines. So he decided to start publishing a fanzine. He didn't want to put up his own money because he was, like most comic fans, the cheapest human being in the world. So he talked this friend of ours named Herbert into putting up the money, and Herbert and Jeff were the partners in this fanzine. So one day somebody says to him, hey, you know who you ought to get to do a cover for your fanzine? Sergio Aragones. And they said, Jeff goes, oh yes, I love Sergio Aragones. Do you have his address? He must be in New York. He works for Mad Magazine. My friend said, no, he lives in Los Angeles. In the current issue of Life magazine, there's a picture of Sergio doing needlepoint. And it says, in his studio in Los Angeles, cartoonist Sergio Aragones often relaxes by doing needlepoint. Right? So Jeff goes, oh my God, he's a cartoonist in Los Angeles. He didn't know anybody in Los Angeles. So he goes to the yellow to the phone book, and there it is, Sergio Aragones, 9560.5 Wicked Boulevard. That's right. See, I don't know how to do this stuff. And he calls the number, and he says, at this point, he suddenly says, I don't want to do it for the fanzine, because I want to cut Herbert out of this. If we get the original art, I don't want him claiming it because he's my partner in the fanzine. He says, Mr. Aragones, I'm doing a school term paper. And I come over to interview you about cartooning. There wasn't a school term. This was a lie. And he went over to So he went over to Sergio's house, and he interviewed him for this non-existent school newspaper. And while he was there, he started saying, hey, you got the original art? Hey, you got the original art? And Sergio said, no, I don't really have anything. The only thing he had was, quote, rejected margins. When Sergio does the margins for Mad Magazine, he draws them on little strips. Imagine a strip of paper about 1 inch by 3 inches long. And then he does the little cartoons. These are about double or triple the size of actually appear. He sends all these strips of paper into Mad, and they pick and choose, and each month he would send in, and they'll pick 12 or so. So he gets these back, and he would put the rejected margins in this little box. No. And yes. And that becomes like a treasure trove of, I ideas, because some of them are brilliant. I don't understand why they picked some and turned out others, but
To this day, I still don't know.
okay. So what he's now got is, you know, and every month he's got this building library of quote rejected gags he can go into, and he can manage to, you know, if he has another idea, he goes, oh, that wouldn't be bad, let's do that one. Anytime he needs a gag. At that time, this is 1968, he's been writing for Mad for about 4 or 5 years, so at that point there were maybe 300 or 400 rejected gags in the box. Now there's got to be 500, 600, no, they've got to be now packing an awful lot. So Jeff sees this box that has in it 500, 400 pieces of Sergio Aragones original art. They're that small, but they are original art. He thinks, oh my goodness, if I could just get him to give me these, I would have all this original art, and I could trade pieces of it for other things. He had this idea that he could trade one Sergio marginal for one Neil Adams page from Batman, one, you know, Steve Ditko page from Spider-Man. You know, one on one of them. So he says to Sergio, could I have them? Sergio says, oh, no, I need them for the ideas. He said, could I borrow them? And I would, you know, I'll just, you know, copy a few of them and paste them in my report. Sergio, who is frequently much too generous around, would say, oh sure, here, borrow them just as long as I get them back. So Jeff takes the box up. And have I said anything yet that is not true?
We'll go there when you finish.
Okay. So now Jeff has this idea. What are you going to do? He says, Sergio said he needed these back because he needs the idea. I'll Xerox them for him. I'll give him the Xeroxes and he'll let me keep the originals. So, at our comic book club, which is up in Oberlin in Palms Park, thank you, and there was a library next to it, and there was a copy machine that for a dime you could get copies. So Jeff would go in, and you know, this is a very cheap guy, would lay as many of them on the glass as he could, try to get as many of them possible on them, and he would Xerox them that way, and then he would get the sheet, and he was doing this every week. They didn't have a lot of money. He was doing, like, you know, 3 or 4 a week as he was building up the Xerox of these things. So pretty soon he's going to go over and get Sergio the Xeroxes. But he got cheap. He got cheap. He didn't want to spend the dime. So he cut Herbert, his fanzine partner. I'm sorry, this is getting complicated. It's going to get simpler. And they decided they would print these things in the fanzine. They said, we'll print them in the fanzine, and if you're going to put up the dimes to Xerox them. So this way, you know, Jeff saved about $3. So they start Xeroxing these things, and Jeff has a line and said, well, Sergio gave these to me. He said I can keep the originals as long as I give him Xeroxes. Now,